Oh, that is a sound I think we've all been hearing. Mosquito season is upon us. And if you feel like you're getting more bites than usual, you're not the only one. At times, it can feel like you're standing in a cloud of them. Well, Ken Deacon is the coordinator of the Vector-Borne Disease Surveillance Program at the Thunder Bay District Health Unit. He's been trapping and counting mosquitoes in the district, and he joins us to talk about what he's found. Good morning.
Good morning, Mary Jane.
So, how does this year's mosquito count compared to last?
Well, we've been collecting mosquitoes at 12 traps from 12 locations, obviously. And this goes back for almost 2 decades now. And this year, our first week of trapping, which was last week, we obtained 3,081 mosquitoes, which is about twice as many as the previous 3 years. But the really good news is that in 2017, we had twice as many mosquitoes then as we have collected this week. So 2017 was a year that was really horrible, and this year is, well, twice as bad as the recent past.
All right. So maybe we're all stuck on the recent past and we've blocked out 2017?
2017 was a cool, wet spring, something like this spring, but much worse. And the mosquitoes just loved it.
So it is this weather we've had that's made this jump?
Yes, it is. And the good news is that we're doing this monitoring because of West Nile virus. And in this first week of trapping, there were no mosquitoes, the primary vectors for West Nile virus, the ones that transmit the disease from the birds to humans. And so therefore, that's good news for us. So there's going to be very little risk of West Nile virus this year.
So what is it about mosquitoes that makes the weather so key for them and how many we get?
Well, they can experience mortality through the winter, although the very early ones, there are 2 types of mosquitoes that we're seeing now. One is the group of species that overwinter as adults, and if it's a really cold winter with very little snow, then a lot of them will die. But again, just as we talked earlier about the ticks, it was a really cold winter, but with lots of snow, so the adults have probably survived quite well. And the other factor is that with a lot of snow, there's a lot of pools in the springtime, temporary pools, and there are different mosquito species that will lay their eggs last year in areas that they can detect that will be flooded in the springtime, and then these temporary pools warm up fairly quickly, the larvae complete development, and then that's the group of mosquitoes that are really abundant right now.
And that's so interesting that they know where there will be water pooling.
Oh, well, you know how these mosquitoes are. They're pretty clever. They can find a hole in the tent or a screen that's a little loose. And I love that introduction sound, but, you know, how often have you heard that mosquito and slapped it and then heard it again and slapped it? And,
yes, and it just keeps coming.
Yep.
So you mentioned that West Nile virus in your findings not too bad?
No, over the last 2 decades, we've only had 2 cases of West Nile here, and one was actually travel-related. But it is possible to get West Nile in the Thunder Bay District. But, whoa, I mean, that's 20 years of monitoring, almost 20 years of monitoring, and 1 locally acquired case. Now, there is luck for you.
Now, a little earlier on the program, Matt Fratt-Petro was saying, we always hear about different things that we may not like, but they are part of our ecosystem. They're part of our world, and they have a purpose. What about mosquitoes?
Oh, sure. And when there's an abundance of mosquitoes, then the natural predators are going to be very happy about that. And there are lots of organisms that do feed on mosquitoes. It's just that there are so many mosquitoes. The habitat is inundated right now, and so they get fat. The predators get fat, but the mosquitoes just keep coming.
And who are the predators?
Oh, there are all sorts of things. The one that I actually did work on was dragonflies. The dragonfly larvae and the adults both feed on mosquitoes quite happily, and then related to the dragonflies are the damselflies. But in addition to those, there are all sorts of things, like from birds and bats. Frogs, not so much. There's a species, a tree frog here, that will eat mosquitoes. And the really great thing is, if there are any minnows in a body of water, like a pond or whatever, then there usually are no mosquitoes, because the fish will, the mosquitoes are just absolutely crazy with their movement factor, and if a fish can't eat it, then that's pretty sad fish. Turtles eat them, and then we get into to the invertebrates. There are other things than dragonflies that will feed on them.
All right. And are there any other risks associated with mosquitoes that do affect us?
I suppose some individuals react really badly to the saliva that they use. It's supposed to be an anesthetic, and for most of us it is. It's very seldom that you get a mosquito hitting your nerve and you go, oh, yeah, that's biting me. More often you look down and you go, oh, look at that blood-fed thing on my leg. Oh, okay. So the saliva, for some individuals, they react really poorly, and they get itchy, they scratch it, it gets a secondary infection, and by the end of the summer it looks like you've got some sort of horrible skin disease. Mm-hmm. But that's just the allergic reaction, which is uncomfortable. Mosquitoes, their real problem, of course, is the transmission of diseases, and West Nile virus here is not an issue, but malaria in Africa and in South America, dengue fever, there are all sorts of horrible diseases that we really are lucky not to have in Canada yet. But keep your fingers crossed. The climate change is happening, and these diseases are just waiting for the right environmental conditions, and then we'll be experiencing them as well. Oh. Yeah,
such a heartwarming thought, Ken.
Yeah, well, that's why. I mean, sure, we're not under any particular problem with West Nile, but the longer we keep our surveillance of the mosquitoes here in Thunder Bay, the more information we have about when things do start to appear, and we've got a heads up about what's coming as far as diseases are concerned.
And speaking of surveillance, before we let you go, Ken, do you have any news for us about ticks or other biting insects?
Not really. Tick numbers are still down, so we're not too concerned about that. I just want to remind people that if you are going out into the bush to enjoy yourself, wear a bug shirt. It's a lot better than the chemical, the insect repellents, because it's physical barrier, and it doesn't wear out. And of course, to prevent tick bites, light-colored clothes, tuck your cuffs in, and that works for mosquitoes as well. I hate it when they go down my boots if I'm wearing, high tops or something, and then they bite me on my ankles. That's really creepy. They should stop that.
Indeed, they should. Thanks so much for speaking with us, Ken.
Okay, you're welcome.
Have a great day. Ken Deacon is the coordinator of the Vector-Borne Disease Surveillance Program at the Thunder Bay District Health Unit and an entomologist.